As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
All right, hey everyone, welcome into another episode of the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. Dylan here, and we are heading into week 3. Pretty good start to the season. First 2 weeks, I cannot really complain about our bets. If you have been following along, we are currently profitable. Let's talk about that first, and then we'll go into my free DFS lineup that I put out there on the TikTok, and then we will go through this week's bets. For the model, that is. If you want our full bets, you'll have to check them out on the website sleepingwiththenumbers.com/bets. There you will find all of our official bets that we are placing, which will include not only the model's moneyline bets, but also my over-under picks, spreads, and if you follow along, we've been going pretty well so far, and let's talk about that. So, 2 weeks in, we are up. We're going to exclude last night's game. We're recording on Friday after the San Francisco and Giants game. That has already passed. If you were following the website, we did take a bet on the under, which just barely hit. I believe there was 42 points scored, and the over-under line was at 43.5. So really cut it close there, but we did manage to hit the under. The model did not have a bet on that game, did not find an edge for either team, and therefore did not take the moneyline bet. But over 2 weeks, the moneyline, spread, over under, all of our bets, we're a little better now, but so we're excluding week 3 so far. We have a cumulative profit of 22 units, so pretty happy with that. My unit is a standard $10, so that's up $220 for the week. Not nearly as good as week 1 was. Week 1, we ended up profiting 16.01 units. This week, 5.99 units. So profit's profit. You cannot complain at all, and I won't. Pretty happy with the new model so far. If you listen to the show, the first 2 years of the model was doing both moneyline and spread. We found that it was best for us to focus more on the moneyline. Reason being, the way we're having the model work is it's going to predict the probability of a win, and if you've been following along, you know what an edge is. But if not, an edge is when you take the expected probability that our model outputs, and we're going to subtract the implied probability, which is calculated from the moneyline odds from the sports books. If we have a positive number, that's an edge. We'll take a bet. If it's negative, there is no edge there. The bet will not be taken. We also don't take bets that are less than minus 200 on the American odds. Just not enough return there. If you want to live that life, go for it. But just know nothing is guaranteed. You could have a bet at minus 600, and I think there is something like that this week. San Francisco was at minus 520. That's just not worth it. Kansas City is minus 650 against the Bears this week. Things happen in the NFL. Things get really, really weird. And let's say you place a $100 bet on, you would have to bet $650 to win 100 on Kansas City this week. That is not worth it. Because guess what? It's horrible to say, and I'm not predicting it, but the Bears can win this game. And if they do, what? You're just kind of fucked, because you decided to place a bet for a very little return because you felt it was not risky. Every bet you take is risky. Doesn't matter how what the odds tell you. And that's why we build our own model to help kind of guide us through that. So with that said, up 22 units so far. We are 60.61% hit rate on the money line. For the spread, we are at 73.684%. That's definitely going to go down. I'm doing way better on the spread than I've ever done. I don't expect that to continue. Just word of caution there. Have been pretty fortunate with these. The over-under, this does include last night's game, puts us at 64.286%. Profit loss for the money line 8.71 units, spread 7.78 units, and for the over-under 6.42 units. There's also a section on the website on the bets page where I have man versus machine, where it's hard to say I'm competing against the model. I use the model towards my benefit as well. But if I'm making a bet that gets included in here, the model only bets on the money line. So my win rate overall is 70.37%, a profit loss of 18.16 units. I'm making way more bets here than the model is. Like I said, model's only doing the money line. And another cool thing here, maybe cool is not the right word. Interesting, I guess, is probably the best word. The model only has a win rate of 53.846%. Now, you probably look at that and you're like, oh, that's shit, that's not good. We could have a win rate below 50%, and as long as the odds with that implied probability or better are hitting, we're going to make profit. So even though the model is only at 53.846%, it has a profit of 4.75 units. So that's pretty cool there. It is interesting to let a statistical model do its job and you just kind of let it run free. I am taking every bet the model gives me this season, even if I don't agree with it. And if I don't agree with it, you will see on the website, there's a little like notes column for a bet. If you see me make a bet against what the model is expecting for the money line bet, I do put that bet is a hedge. Remember, the model doesn't know a lot of things. It only focuses on the statistics. So we'll get into that here. And I think a big one that we will see will probably be on the Cleveland Browns. You know, Nick Chubb out for the season for sure. And it might be his career. I hope not. Fantastic running back. But like I said, things are crazy in the NFL. But the model doesn't know that. The model doesn't know that Cleveland's star running back is done. All it knows is how the team has performed over the season, and it's going to use those statistical values, metrics, whatever we want to call them, to predict a win probability for Cleveland. So we'll get into that when we hop into the games and the models picks, etc. But just please keep that in mind going forward. I don't want people to just follow blindly, even though I just said that's what I'm doing. But I will never tell you guys to just blindly follow the model. I'm going to give you some kind of background info on why it's likely making its predictions and everything, just so you can bet with all the info you need. Obviously, do not bet what you can't afford. Expect to lose everything is really my word of advice for this episode. Cool. So let's hop into the DraftKings lineup that I posted for the $1 tournament. That's the line we're using. Like I said, that's a low barrier entry. Everyone can kind of hop in here and play this game. We did cash again, barely. So still 100% for these free lineups I've been giving out. But we just barely hit it again. I think even last week was a barely hit the cash line. So the cash line was at 137 points, 137.44 points. The free lineup that I shared got 138.4. Not great. So while we cashed, that was a very close one overall in DFS this past week. I did horrible. I lost most of my money. I think I ended up with like a 70% loss, something like that. It was pretty bad. A lot of underperformers, and if you look at the exposure for what players are picked for these contests, Josh Kelly and Calvin Ridley are the most owned players. And Kelly put up 3.9 points. Calvin Ridley put up 5.2. So that killed everyone that had them, basically. Only 4.4% of lineups had Josh Kelly. 4.4% of the top 1% lineups. I'm not going to go into math and do all that, but that is what happened. Only 4.4% of the top 1% had Josh Kelly, and only 1.6% of the top 1% had Calvin Ridley. The most owned player in the top 1% of lineups were Keenan Allen at 43.4% and Nico Collins at 40.5%. So, yeah, some big performances there. And then Puka Nacua still getting it done. Honestly, I'm trying to trade a little high on him. I don't know what to expect for him. I think he's a good player, but I don't know what happens when Cup comes back. So honestly, I'm trying to trade high where I have him on my teams. I just gotta get that right offer, but because I'm also not afraid to just kind of hang on to him. He obviously does enough work, and in any sort of PPR league, he's a good player. And even in standard, don't take that away. But the 20 targets is absurd. But that will pretty much clear it out. If you didn't know what the DFS lineup was that I posted, it was Justin Herbert, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Zay Flowers, Sam Laporta, Jalen Reed, and the Jets defense. So I got 2 snowflakes here with Godwin and the Jets defense. I really just wanted to pop in a cheap defense there, but that did not work. And only 2 flames, one with Herbert, one with Jalen Reed. So everyone else was pretty average. It's not a bad score. It's just I didn't have anyone really go off. And if you're going to do anything in one of these GPP contests, you need multiple guys to be in the flames. That's how you move forward. You need that leverage. You need to have on your team low-owned players, because if you're getting the points, those other people aren't, and you can just fly past them. But keep an eye out for my next free lineup. I usually post those during the weekend once I kind of complete my lineups here. Down the line, as I continue to add to the website, I do want to have a section that will have all of my lineups, and you can follow them if you wish. There's also a cool section on the website. The nav tab is called DFS Contests, and what this is, it is a massive table, and I should probably make this filterable. I think that's a word. But it's a massive table of every DraftKings contest going on. And the key information to take away from this is the rake and the percentage of positions played. So you want to play in contests with a low rake. What is rake? Rake is essentially the money that DraftKings keeps in order to put out the contest. It's almost kind of like a VIG. Or it's a fee that you are paying to play. Now, you probably think, well, I'm paying $20 to play. Yes, you are. But of each of those $20 or whatever the entry fee is, DraftKings is going to keep a certain percentage of that. They got to make money, just like every sports book. But you want low rake. That way, the more of the money that comes in from the entry fees is paid out to the actual players. So that's what you want to look for in this table. That Adam Levitin on Establish Your Run also does a great job kind of filtering through those contests and telling you which ones to play. He's done a lot of that work already if you just want an easy way to get told what to play. But if not, massive table here on our website that you can look through and kind of figure it out. It's a lot to process here. I really should make it have some filters to help out, and probably want to sort by rake. So I'll get to that eventually. Sadly, I have a real job as well. Not sadly, I love my job. But I do have a real job as well that takes my time away from this. But if you want to check that out, that is on the website, sleepingwiththenumbers.com/DFS_contest. But let's hop into it for this week. Before we do that, let's recap how we did last week. Now, remember, we talked about the bets, because that's what we really care about, is the profit loss and everything. I also go through every week and make picks. Now, picks are different than bets. I may believe a team's going to win, San Francisco, but I'm not going to bet on them for the money line because it is, like I said earlier, minus 520. I'm not doing that. Or maybe I just don't have enough confidence to place a bet, but if I was forced to make a bet, here's what it would be. That's essentially what a pick is. So Last week I went 12-4, 75% on the winners. The model went 56.25% on the winners. The spread, I went 10-4, so 71.43% hit there. 9-7 on the over-under. That's the same as we had week 1. 56.25% there. And the model, it made 2.08 units in profit last week, even though it only had a 50% hit rate. Reason being, we hit on a handful of those underdogs, which helped out. So like the big underdogs that won, Washington at plus 170. Man, we almost had a bigger day than we already did, because Arizona almost won, and then they were like, wait a minute, we want the first overall pick, we need to lose. They were at plus 215. Rams came out swinging. They were looking good for a bit, and then they're like, wait, we also kind of want that first overall pick, and they were at plus 300. So we were close on those ones, but we did hit Washington at plus 170, Indy at plus 102, Seattle at plus 195, Tennessee at plus 138, and Baltimore at plus 164. So a lot of the dogs hit this week, and that's good, and we hope that continues, because the model is very underdog happy again this week. So let's hop into it with first game here, Tennessee versus Cleveland. Cleveland, like I said, they just lost star running back Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford stepping in. They re-signed Kareem Hunt, so he will be here. I don't know how much he'll play. Like, he should know the offense already. You know, it's his former team. It'll be interesting to see his involvement. The current line is Cleveland 3.5 point home favorites, minus 180 on the money line, which surprises me a little bit. I don't think Tennessee has looked that bad. And then a very low over under a 39.5. I'll tell you right now, I'm probably taking that over. Even though we may expect this to be a run heavy game, every game with Derrick Henry should be run heavy, but we'll see what happens there. But who cares what I think? We care about what the model thinks, and the model believes that not only is the model going to be betting on Tennessee, the model believes that Tennessee will win this game, giving them a 74.515% win probability. At plus 162 is what we are finding for the best odds. The best odds for the Titans. So at plus 162, the model gives them a 36.347% edge. So that is who the model will be picking, and I agree with them. Cleveland has not impressed me. I know they came out and beat the Bengals week 1, and that surprised the hell out of everyone, including myself. But overall, they have not looked impressive. They couldn't beat the Steelers, who, as a Steelers fan, we do not look good. And yes, that was all built on top of our defense, but that should tell you something about Deshaun Watson. Also, Watson's just a sack of shit. I don't know how he didn't get suspended for pushing refs, but that's where we're at. I don't understand it. Scumbag is really where we'll leave it. But hopefully the Titans crush them this week. Next game here, Atlanta versus Detroit. This should be a good one. One I am excited for in DFS. Now on paper, it's difficult. The over-under is at 46.5. And the money's coming in on the over, but I slightly lean the other direction. Not because I don't think these teams can score, but I don't know how efficient they can be at scoring. And what I mean by that is, we know Atlanta's going to run the ball nonstop. They run the ball, clock's going to keep running, and that leaves out time for the teams to score. So, my current thought here is to go for the under, but stay tuned. Keep an eye on our website, sleepingwitthenumbers.com/bets, to see what I end up choosing. The Detroit Lions are 3-point home favorites, minus 169 on the money line. Like I said, an over-under of 46.5 points. The model believes, we're going for another dog here. The model has a win probability of 53.361% for the Falcons, which gives them an edge of 13.038%, and that is at a plus 148 money line. I honestly, this is such a coin toss to me. But as I've said in the past, coin toss, 50-50, right? And according to the implied odds of plus 148, that's a 40.323% chance. If it's a coin toss, 50 is greater than 40.323, you take the dog. So that is what the model will be doing here. Next matchup here, this one also surprised me with the line, but the Green Bay Packers against the New Orleans Saints, who are 2-0. Packers are 1-1. Packers are -1 point home favorites, -119 on the money line, according to Pro Football Focus. Again, I don't know who they use for their odds, but my script for the model grabs the best odds out of all the sports books, so we're going to go off of that. Over under of 42.5 points. I'm just surprised that the Packers are favored here. I don't know. I know I don't like Derek Carr, and if I had to pick, I am going to pick the Packers, just mostly because I don't like Derek Carr. But I'm just surprised that Vegas is seeing it the same way. That does shock me. For an undefeated team to come in here against the Packers, who have looked okay, but let's see here. Last week they lost to Atlanta, and then they beat the Bears. So not an impressive team to beat, and then a pretty good team to lose to. So I don't know. This is a really interesting one, and I would imagine they're having a pretty hard time deciding what the line should be for this game. But for the moment, Packers are a point home favorites. The model did find an edge for betting on Green Bay, so one of the few favorites here that the model will be betting on, giving them a 58.992% chance of winning, making the edge 5.94% at that -113. So the model will be taking the Packers to win this one. And like I said, I'm pretty sure I agree with that. New Orleans, well, we just did New Orleans, sorry. Denver Broncos, 0-2. Love to see that. Take it, Russ, you're horrible. Sean Payton, like I said, can't come in and fix anything. It's just, that whole organization's just a joke. But they're coming in 0-2 against the undefeated Dolphins. Dolphins -6.5 point home favorites with an over-under of 48. The model, I haven't looked yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to bet the Broncos. Yep. Yes, they are. So the model is taking the Broncos again, not because they believe they're going to win, but because there is a 9.445% edge at the plus 256 money line they are finding, the model's finding. They do expect the Dolphins to win this game. 62.466% chance win for the Dolphins. But again, the edge is coming in for the Broncos as the underdog. And like I said, I don't take bets -200 or less, so I will not be hedging this one, even though I don't agree with it. But I've been proven wrong many times in the past by the model itself. And so we're going to follow it here. This is one I would caution, though. Biggest over-under of the week. The game, I think I've targeted the Chargers all 3 weeks in DFS. All 2 weeks, and then now week 3, I'm going to be targeting them again with this high over-under of 54 against Minnesota. That's an easy under. It's just really high. It's almost always better to bet on the under, and here we are again doing it. again, another kind of coin toss game. They currently have Minnesota favored by a point. But what does the model say? The model says, model's going with the Chargers here. They found the Chargers at even money plus 100, which gives an implied probability at 50%. However, the model is calculating a 76.08% win chance for the Chargers, giving a 26.08% edge. So they really are in on the Chargers here. Let's see what happens. I will be doing this bet as well. Man, the Chargers just have had some tough breaks. Again, it should be better, the model that is, in picking this game than it would be for Cleveland, because last week they didn't have Austin Eckler either, and he's going to be out again this week. So the model is taking that into account, whereas with Cleveland, they didn't have the whole game without Chubb. Now, a decent portion of it, sure, but did not have the entire game. So statistically, the model, in theory, should have a better knowledge of how to predict this game than it would the Cleveland game. But yeah, the Chargers will be without Eckler again, which gives me more confidence in the wide receivers of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So if you're playing any full PPR, DraftKings included, get Allen in your lineups. He might be, you got to watch the ownership, but for cash, who cares? You're fine. Watch the ownership though if you plan on doing this for a GPP. So the model taking the Chargers money line in this one at even money. Divisional matchup: 0-2 Patriots taking on the 1-1 Jets. Jets are at home and they are underdogs, 2.5 point underdogs. Wow. Over under of 36.5 points. That give me the over on that one. That is just so low. And now I want to pause a minute because I want to know how often a line of 36.5 has been taken or below, and how often that hits. So let's pause real quick. All right, we're back, and I have found this data. So since 2010, in the regular season, there have been 90 games with an over-under of 36.5 or fewer, less, one of those words, and it is almost a dead even split. 46 times it has hit the over, 44 times it has hit the under. Now, if we redo that, and maybe let's take a look at more recent. So let's do 2018. So in the past 5 years. The past 5 years, we have had 30 games with an over-under of 36.5 or fewer, and only 10 have hit the over. So 1/3 has hit the over, 2/3 has hit the under. That's wild. Okay, that is not what I expected, but if we go based off of the data here, off of the numbers, it's in our damn name, we sleep with the numbers, based on the numbers, the best bet is to take the under at -110. There is a statistical edge based on data to take that bet. So something to keep in mind here. That is not what I would have expected, but here we go. Jumping back into the game, New England, 2.5 point road favorites. The model. Come on, model, what you got for me? The model believes. Ooh, okay, so the model not only is taking the dog with the Jets, the model is actually taking the Jets to win. So it does believe they will win. 52.644% win probability. And at plus 130, that gives them an edge of 9.166%. The model. Getting wild here. This is one I might hedge on. I don't have a lot of confidence in Zach Wilson, but I also don't have a lot of confidence in Mac Jones. So, which is the lesser of the two evils? I don't know. Currently, Pro Football Focus has the Jets ranked as the worst offense in the league, but the third best defense. While the Patriots are the 18th best offense and the 14th best defense. So I don't know what you make of that, quite honestly. However, power ranking, and I don't really go like power rankings very much, but overall, they have the Jets still ahead of the Patriots. So let's see. Patriots have had two tough opponents. You know, they played the Eagles and they played the Dolphins. The Jets have played, well, pretty tough there too with the Bills and the Cowboys. So both teams have had a pretty rough strength of schedule already played so far. Model taking the Jets. I might hedge it on the Patriots. I just have such a hard time betting on them. I know they're home. I know their defense is fantastic, but you can never count Billy B out. I've said that too many times, and we're still saying it. Buffalo Bills at 1-1 taking on the undefeated Washington Commanders. The Bills are 6.5 point away favorites. Over under of 43.5. I'd probably go the over here. I think the Bills can put up a lot of that themselves. I know we got two good defenses here, but after that first week, I think the Bills got pissed off and they're getting back on track. With that said, the model, gotta scroll through here, will be taking, if I had to guess, they're going to take Washington. They're going to find, there's definitely an edge there. No, okay, all right, man, I don't know my model at all, apparently. So, the model found an edge for the Buffalo Bills, 16.484% edge at minus 260. However, with the logic we have built in for if we take a bet or not, we don't take anything less than minus 200. I know minus 260 is pretty close, so if you want to take it, go for it. You know, I think it's tough to get the Bills this low on money line, so this might be worth it. But as for us here at Sleeping with the Numbers and with the model logic, we will not be taking this bet. But do know there is an edge. So if you're comfortable with that risk, go for it. It also gives the Bills an 88.706% chance of winning, and which leaves the Commanders with an 11.294% chance of winning. Yeah, that's super close. You know, I don't think that line's going to change enough for me to take it. Buffalo, what did they open at? It has come down, so they opened at minus 286, and it's now down to, what I say, minus 260. So we'll see where it goes, but as I said in kind of the betting tips thing, generally the earlier you bet on a favorite, the better. We'll see how much this moves here, but I don't think anything's really changed for either team to move that line. AFC South matchup, 0-2 Houston Texans taking on the 1-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are 8.5 point home favorites, over under of 44.5. The model, of course, loves the Texans. It has all year so far, and that's always because the odds given to them on the money line are always pretty outrageous. So the model is, of course, going to take that because it likes taking those risks, and we're going to do it once again. The model giving the edge to Houston on the money line, 20.341% edge at plus 330. It does not expect them to win, but although it is much closer than I expected, giving them a 43.597% win probability, 56.403 for the Jags. Not one I'm going to hedge. The Jags are at, what, the best I can get them looks like minus 385. That's way less than the minus 200 line that we have. And if we're not going to take the Bills at minus 260, we're definitely not taking the Jags at minus 385. So, again, this is all just information I want to throw to you, the listener, and then you take that and you can make your own choices with it. This is one, if you're not comfortable, if you want a higher win rate but maybe a less return, maybe you skip this one. If you're willing to take that risk and end up with a lower win rate, which in reality, who cares how often you win as long as you're profitable? Tail it. Eventually one of these will hit. It's just how it goes. The chance of finishing the season without a win for any team, no matter how poor they are, is pretty damn low. So we keep taking our shots here. Maybe the Texans will win at some point. Mathematically, they have to, right? maybe it won't be this season, but who knows? Indianapolis taking on Baltimore. Baltimore -8 home favorites. Over under of 44 points. Anthony Richardson has been rolled out. So remember, very similar to the Nick Chubb situation with Cleveland, the model only sees numbers. That's all it cares about. It doesn't know that Richardson played like half a game and then was out. All it sees is numbers. So with that said, we'll put a little caution here. But I believe the model will be betting. Yes, what the fuck? This one is wild to me. So not only does the model find an edge for the Colts of 46.501% at plus 340, but it also has them winning. It's giving a 69.228% win probability to the Colts. That's absurd. I personally do not know what to make of that. Statistically, have the Colts really been that impressive? I don't think so. Or is it the opposite? Have the Ravens been that bad? Well, they had a close game with Cincinnati, who wasn't looking great, so maybe that skewed the numbers a little bit. What about the Colts? The Colts beat Houston, but they weren't that good. Lost to Jacksonville, who statistically has not been super impressive, especially last week, which is weighted a bit more heavily. That's a wild one. I don't understand how it is taking it, but the edge I completely understand. That absolutely makes sense, but the win probability, that's something wild. Because all of them doesn't matter. As long as the bet hits, who cares? So we'll see what happens there. That one threw me for a loop, as you could tell. But whatever. The model has balls that I don't, and they will be taking the Colts to win on the money line at plus 340. See what happens. I was really hoping to see Richardson versus Lamar. That could have been a fun matchup, but no, we can't have nice things. Carolina 0-2, taking on the 1-1 Seahawks without Bryce Young. He is out. It will be Andy Dalton, I'm pretty sure. Not that Bryce looked great, but that actually might be better for the team. Again, though, the model is basing everything off of the games it has seen, and those games have been with Bryce Young. Has not had a game with Andy Dalton. So here's another one to kind of look at with caution. But the model will be taking, let's see here, Seattle is 5.5 point home favorites, over under of 42. The model likes Carolina here for this game. The model's taking Carolina to win here too. So the model hates Seattle. I think that week 1 performance, even though it's weighted less now because it's further in the past, it was just so putrid that it's kind of lingering on here. So it has a 48.257% win probability for Seattle, leaving a 51.743% chance for the Panthers. And at plus 210, that gives a 19.485% edge on the money line. So that is the bet we will be taking here. Not worth hedging this one with the Seattle Seahawks at minus 230. We'll let it ride. We'll see what happens. And if it does hit, that's more profit if I'm not hedging. 0-2 Chicago Bears taking on the 1-1 Chiefs. There's no way the model is not taking Chicago in this one with what the odds are at currently. The Chiefs, 12.5 point home favorites, over under 48. That sounds like a fantastic under for me. I think Cleveland, the Chiefs can put up points and then just kind of coast. Justin Fields is awful, as I've said, and people are catching on. Like, I don't know, it's been right in front of your face forever. I don't know why it took everyone so long to catch on that he's a horrible quarterback. And actually, now I do know why. It's because it's impacting people's fantasy teams. Before, no one cared. No one really called him a horrible quarterback because he was getting points for your fantasy team. Now he's not, and people are like, oh, he sucks. He's always sucked. He would just run the ball more before. And sure, he's blaming his coaches, and maybe that's true that they're not letting him do his thing, but they're not the one throwing the ball. They're not the one out there. He needs to run more, is what it comes down to. That's all we care about for fantasy. For real football, he's done. He's done. I wanted to make a bet when this show started. One of our first episodes, I asked Pat, I'm like, can I make a bet that Fields doesn't get a second contract? Because he won't. He is not getting that. And if he does, it will not be with the Bears. Can he start for another team? Maybe. But he's basically done. You know, he's going to go to another team, and they're going to hold on to him for a little bit until they can draft their future. He's just not it for any team. He's had chances to prove it. Hasn't happened. I understand the Bears as an organization are just kind of poo-poo. But the harsh reality is that's what happens. And then you're just kind of screwed. Anyways, the model will be taking the Bears. Wow. Only giving the Bears a 3.561% chance. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, wow. Okay, so the model hates the Bears. I am wrong. The model only gives the Bears a 3.51% win probability. That was not the edge I thought. Which means it is a negative edge for the Bears. It really thinks they have no chance of winning, which is correct. There is actually an edge at minus 715 for Kansas City, 8.709% edge. No way in hell are we taking that bet. But that's damn impressive for the model to say, not touching the Bears, even at this line. That is wild. So to give you the number that the odds that the model would take the Bears at, we can do the inverse calculation of the win probability. Odds converter. And let's see what it comes up with for 3.561% win probability. So implied odds 3.6561. Okay, so that means the model would not take this bet unless it is at plus 2,708. So thank you, model, for backing up my rant about Justin Fields with math and numbers. Really appreciate dunking on Justin Fields with logic. Oh, that feels good. Okay. Anyways, next game. That's awesome. Don't take that bet, by the way. Please don't. That's not enough return for anyone. Cowboys 2-0 taking on the 0-2 Cardinals. Cardinals 12.5 point home underdogs, over under of 43 points. Dallas defense might put that up themselves. I'm not even going to try to guess what the model is taking here anymore because I've been wrong, I think 3 times in a row, and I'm embarrassing myself here a little bit. You know, it's like Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein's monster is making Frankenstein look like an asshole, which really is the story of the book. I know the monster's a victim and he just isn't understood and everything, but he really makes Frankenstein look like an asshole because he made him. So that's what's going on here, but at least my monster's making me money. So the model will be taking Arizona not to win, but there is an edge for the money line. 42.892% win probability, and at plus 550, the model gives them a 27.507% edge. Well, there you go. And this one does make sense, right? Because the Cardinals have somehow been more in games than anyone expects. So statistically, on paper, they look okay. But then they kind of shit themselves. And the model doesn't know that. The model doesn't know that in the first half, the Cardinals were smacking... Who did they play last week? New York. And then they just kind of gave up. The model doesn't know that. The model just knows the stats for the entire game. I don't know if it would be worth breaking it down by quarter. That's an interesting thought, but I don't think so. However, so, you know, statistically, the numbers might be there, which is why they have the Cardinals so high. You know, 42.892% win probability for the Cardinals seems extremely high, especially against a solid team like Dallas. The other thing, you know, Diggs out for the season with the ACL injury. Model doesn't know that. Just a heads up there. I don't... It wouldn't really change much. But just something to keep in mind. Still expect the Cowboys to thrash the Cardinals around. Sunday night football. Steelers get another primetime game. See what they can do. Both teams 1-1. Steelers and the Raiders. The Raiders are 2.5 point home favorites. I wanted to go to this game in Vegas, but didn't end up happening. I'm gonna be there next month anyways, so didn't want to make 2 trips. Over under of 43 points. I have been taking the under for the Steelers for a long time. I took the over last week just because, you know, 38.5. I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And they did, but on top of 2 defensive scores was not how I expected it to happen. But the model, let's see what they expect here. Okay, all right. The model hates the Raiders, apparently, only giving them a 5.667% chance of winning, giving the Steelers a 94.333% chance of winning, which gives a 50.855% edge to the Pittsburgh Steelers at plus 130. Is that the biggest of the... It is. That is the biggest of the week, the biggest edge of the week given to the Steelers here at plus 130. And it has to be on top of that, those defensive numbers. That has to be what happened here. As a Steelers fan, I can't advise taking that bet. I'm going to. Even without the model, I would. But I've been disappointed before by the Steelers, and I'll be disappointed again. We play down to our opponent, and if we were going to ever play down to an opponent, it's going to be the Raiders here. Who else we got? We'll probably play down to quite a few. Rams will probably beat us. We'll probably lose to the Cardinals. That just fucking happens for us. Mike Tomlin football. That's just what we do for whatever reason. Man. Anyways, the model taking the Steelers here. It should at least be a decent game. I pick it real. I won't get into it. Our offense just needs to completely change. And having Najee on my fantasy team, one of them, hurts. Really hurts. We have 2 Monday Night Football games again for some reason. The 2-0 Eagles taking on the 2-0 Bucks. The Bucks are 4.5 home underdogs, an over/under of 46 points. The model really liking Tampa, giving them a 72.203% chance of winning, and at plus 195, that is an edge of 38.304%. That's a tough one. Baker is another guy I do not like betting on, but they've looked good. They really have, which is a shock to everyone. Oh man, that's a tough one. I won't be hedging, it looks like, unless these odds change a good bit. The best odds we can find for the Eagles is currently at minus 215, and that just won't get it done. So I'll probably let it ride and see what happens. But this is one I would personally be afraid to take. Mostly just because of Baker. He'll trick you, and then he'll take all your money like he did from Hulu. The LA Rams at 1-1, taking on the 0-2 Bengals. We don't know if Joey Burrow is going to play this game with the calf injury. There will be a good thing to keep note of. Again, the model doesn't care one way or another. It is just looking off of statistics. So with that said, Bengals are 2.5 point home favorites still. Wow. With an over-under of 43.5 points. You know, this might be a good one to get in now. That is taking the Cincy money line and spread before you know what happened with Burrow. Because if Burrow's confirmed to be in, I would imagine that line would shift in favor of the Bengals, that is. But right now, with the question marks in the air, this might be set a little closer on the line than it might actually be. So something to note there. As the injury news gets closer and closer, we will have more information and the lines should shift. The model, however, either way, will be taking the Bengals to win, 83.814% chance win probability, and at minus 135, that gives them a 26.367% edge. So the model will be taking the Bengals here. It's a close one. You know, I do think the Rams have looked okay, but who have they played? They have played San Francisco and Seattle. So they've played their division so far. San Francisco stomps everyone, and they were able to keep up with them for a little bit. So this is a tough one, honestly. You know, if I wasn't doing this show and had to kind of prove my model with money, I think I might just enjoy watching this one rather than staking some money on it, because there's a decent amount of variability in this matchup. I hope the Rams win just because I'm a Steelers fan, but I also hope that with Puka, I want to see more Puka. So we'll see what happens in this matchup. Model taking the Bengals on the money line. That finishes it up here for week 3 matchups for what the model will be taking. If you want all of our bets, check it out at sleepingwiththenumbers.com/bets. There you will see the model bets, and then when I input my bets, usually Saturday, I'll have them in there as we work through, or I work through the numbers on who I'm going to take. And then I want to add another page of just picks. You know, as I stated at the beginning of the episode, picks are different than bets, but I want everything up on the website and available to everyone to follow. Cool. With that said, keep an eye out for the DFS lineup that I will post here as well. If you want to check us out on TikTok, SWTN_podcast. And then it's the same handle on X, Twitter, whatever the hell it's called. Follow us there and tail these bets if you like, Or if you just like talking about sports betting, talk to us. We enjoy that shit too. So have a good week. Best of luck to you in fantasy, DFS, and of course, sports betting. We'll see you later.